Hi everyone and welcome to this drawing video. In this video I want to show you how to draw some cherry blossoms, and in terms of the materials I used, for the paper I used some Daler Rowney Earthbound sketchbook paper with a nice toned tanned effect, and then for the initial sketch I used my mechanical pencil with HB leads, and then when it came to the colouring I used Prismacolor pencils, specifically using pink, blush pink, magenta, poppy red, yellowed orange, carmine red and black and white pencils. Then for the highlights I used a Uniball Signo Broad white ink pen, and later on in the drawing for the branch I used Copic markers, specifically Cool Grey 5 and 7. But please don't worry too much about the equipment. As long as you have any kind of paper and coloured pencils in front of you, you'll be able to create something like this. As you can see, I started by roughly sketching the branch, adding knots here and there and just trying to create a nice natural shape. And then from there I added some of the stems for the cherry blossoms, grouping some of them together and just trying to get a nice layout for this drawing. After that I wanted to add the blossoms to the end of each of the stems, and I tried to add two fully opened blossoms amongst a bunch of cherry blossom buds, so they're all in different stages of opening, and hopefully that makes the image look a bit more interesting. And when it was time to add the fully opened blossoms, they consist of 5 petals. And I would advise not to worry too much about the exact shape of the petals. With any nature drawings like this, they're always moving and changing with the wind, and some of the petals will have folds in them and all kinds of interesting shapes. I'll make sure to zoom in on some of the details I added during this sketching process so you can see the different shapes I tried to add. And also, as you can see, the cherry blossom buds don't require too much detail at all. They're a nice and easy shape. Once the sketching process was completed, it was then time for the colouring, and as I mentioned before, for the colouring I used Prismacolor pencils, starting with a pink pencil first, adding a few streaks of colour across the petal, and also adding some darker colouring to the underside of the petal where some of the folds are showing. After that I then used a blush pink pencil to add some more streaks of colour over the top of that, and then finally to blend across all of this colouring and to create that kind of streaky textured vein effect on the petals, I used a white Prismacolor pencil, just blending across the previously laid down colouring and just adding a nice texture to it. After colouring in each petal, I then used the magenta pencil to add some darker, more vibrant colour towards the centre. I continued the same process for each of the petals, and then I added some highlighting going around the outer edges with the white Prismacolor pencil. I also brought out the black Prismacolor pencil to add some dark shading towards the centre of the blossom, and then from there I wanted to add some more detail towards the centre, adding the stamen. So for this I used the white pencil to add some lines going outwards from the centre, and then I added some orange colouring towards the end of each one with poppy red and yellowed orange. To help define some of the shapes of the stamen, I also used the black Prismacolor pencil, blending some of that dark shading from the centre. For the final stages of this cherry blossom, I used the black Prismacolor pencil to add some shading to the undersides of each of the petals, and then I brought out the Uniball Signo Broad white ink pen to add some dots of highlights around the outer edges of each of the petals and to add some small details like that, and also as a way of making the stamen stand out from the dark shading at the centre. And after that, this cherry blossom was completed and it was time to move on to the next one. And it's a really fun process. I love seeing how this colour really stands out on this paper. I really recommend trying out some mid-tone paper like this with toned tan, or if you use greyboard, and seeing the way the colours and the highlights with the highlighter pen really stand out on the page. I definitely recommend giving it a go if you get a chance. For the closed cherry blossom buds and the ones that are only partly opened, I followed the same process for them for the petals, but they have a much more vibrant colour to them when you look at references. So in this case I was blending more of the magenta over the top, saturating with more of that colour. Also using the highlighter pen to add some highlights towards the tip of each of those buds, And once I'd added all of the colouring to them and all of the blossoms had been coloured in, I then added colouring to each of the stems. For this I used Carmine Red and then added shading over the top of that with the black Prismacolor pencil. This was especially helpful for the closed buds where the undersides of the blossoms were more visible, so just adding more shading around that area. Once all of those details have been coloured, it was then time to move on to adding some dark shading to the cherry blossom branch. For this I used a Copic marker, I used Cool Grey No. 7 and just added a full layer of shading over the top of my outlines. And then I also used the black and white pencils to add some shading and highlights and just to show up a few more details in this area. And then as a final touch to this drawing, I really wanted to add some water drops, so I quickly sketched a couple of them along the branch, added some shading with Cool Grey 5 and 7, and then added some highlighting around the outer edge with the white pencil, and added some dots of highlights with the Uniball highlighter pen. Just a nice simple way to create a couple of water drops on this. And after that, this drawing was completed, and I really loved working on this one. It was fun to attempt this on some toned tan paper again. It's such an amazing time of year when the cherry blossoms all start to come out, and I've been out there getting as many photos as I can before they all just suddenly drop. I really hope this video helps out in some way. It's a really fun one to work on, and let me know if you do work on it. I'd love to see. If you enjoy watching videos like this, then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares on this video, they really mean a lot to me. If you want to follow my progress and keep updated with everything I'm working on, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below to check out my Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And once again, thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope it's helpful in some way. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll see you all soon.